The pod travels with young. They must be protected at all costs.
The body was one of the most important anthropological finds, possibly one of the most important scientific discoveries in human history. This was an intelligent toolmaker with grasping hands, evolved from a primate ancestor, one that walked upright on land like us. If this creature is part of the human family tree, how human is it? I remember on the drive out to see the complete skull mold, I remember thinking how perfect it was. Here we were driving through some of the very land where our oldest ancestors had been discovered. And now we were about to meet a new one. Only this wasn't an ancestor. This was somebody still out there.
My name is Dr. Leanne Fisser. I'm a forensic anthropologist in the Department of Human Evolution. I reconstruct the appearance of an individual based on fragments of skull and other bones. A few characteristics immediately stood out. The skull had very large orbits, bigger than any fossil or modern human that I'd ever reconstructed. The eyes would be quite big, and large eyes are found in animals operating in low light. The next thing I noticed was evidence of a skull ridge. Such skull crests are found in some of our relatives, but not in modern humans. Apes have them, and they're also found in some of our early ancestors.
Scanning the reconstructed skull enabled Dr. Visser to map the inside of the brain cavity. She discovered that the parts which in humans correspond to sound interpretation were greatly enlarged.
The opening on the frontal skull fragment was connected to an extensive series of sinus cavities. The shape and features of the skull revealed to us just how elaborate the creature's acoustic capacities really were.
The concave shape in the front of the skull indicated that it had a melon, a specialized mass of fatty tissue that enables dolphins and other whales to echolocate. It wasn't a blowhole. This wasn't used for breathing. It was used to channel sound. The skull reconstruction proved it could do this. that this creature could echolocate. This was the creature that had made the sound. The calls had never been identified.
Echolocation, a form of biosonar. The ability to emit high-frequency sounds that bounce off objects and give the animal a mental map of its environment. Sound used to locate food. Sound used to communicate in the deep blue of the vast ocean.
We now had no doubt that this was the animal that had made the bloop. This was the same animal that was on the 1997 bloop recording. This was the same animal that was on the 2004 Washington State recording. And it was the same animal that was on the South African recording, the one that talked to the dolphins.
The creatures in the dolphins call to one another. Call one another to the hunt. The sardine run. Almost every predator in the ocean will converge in a miles-long caravan of migrating fish. But only two will work together. We had just found a creature of fable. I mean, that's what we were looking at. All of us had been wanting to say it for days, probably weeks. But scientists aren't supposed to believe in fairy tales. And what we were looking at was a mermaid.
Monster Week continues next, only on Animal Planet.
If the Beaufort footage is real, then it's not the one we took off the beach in Washington. That one was in no condition to be transported. I saw what those boys saw. I know what they reported to the Navy was accurate. How do you think people would respond if they knew we were killing an unknown species that was most likely the only surviving relative to humans? Look at how they continue to react to beached whales. If the public ever saw this creature, there would be an uproar.
So I asked myself, how could this thing stay hidden so long? Then you realize that the surface of the moon has been explored more than the deep oceans. And you look at the fact that even to this day, there are still large animals being discovered. There have been 2 new species of whales discovered in just the past decade. These are 30-foot, 40-foot long animals that have never been seen before, never been recorded. Giant animals found for the first time ever in just the past 10 years. So yeah, it's possible. It's still possible to stay hidden. But of course, this animal we found had been recorded before. We have no record, we have no scientific record of them, but there's another record. We know them. We've known them all along.
The accounts have been told by sailors the world over. The seafaring Greeks described them, as did the Vikings, as did the Chinese during their great period of maritime exploration. They are recorded in medieval manuscripts and even into the 19th century, when captains of whaling vessels spotted them swimming with pods of whales. Cultures from different continents, people that had no contact with one another, but all of them have stories describing the same mythic creature. Could it be these stories are more than myth? They were recorded in the logs of the voyages of both Christopher Columbus and Henry Hudson, who witnessed humanoid creatures with pale speckled bellies, dark blue backs, and paddle-shaped tails. Could these be accurate descriptions of what they saw? Could other historical evidence provide new insight, like these 16th century Italian drawings, once thought to be depictions of a human medical anomaly? These sketches may now tell a very different story. Even today, accounts still emerge, like this hastily shot video captured in 2005 off the Adriatic coast. This most recent sighting comes from deep-sea fishermen. The most ancient can be found in a desert left behind by a departed sea. These sandstone caves once looked out over a tidal bay some 30,000 years ago. The water has receded, but the memory of the people who live there remains, recorded in ancient paintings that cover the cave walls. Archaeologists believe these may be among the oldest mythic images ever made by man. Are they the projected dreams of early fishermen, imagining themselves with tails, swimming out to catch fish with spears and nets? Or are they something else? Early humans fought savagely over hunting and fishing grounds. Force was used against rival tribes and against any other competitive threat to a valuable food source. Could that be what these paintings depict? Could these paintings be a record of mankind's conflict with creatures that are now relegated to myth? Did we drive them into extinction? Or did we drive them into hiding? If they persisted, if they survived, they must have hidden somewhere. But where?
We knew what they had. We knew what they had before they knew what they had. We'd been trailing McCormick's NOAA team since 2004. We followed them to South Africa. We knew what they found was the same species we'd taken off that beach. They had evidence that would bring down the operation. They had physical evidence that could stop us. Do you think we were going to let that happen? But they were advancing our research, so we let them continue for a while.
By that point, we had concluded